to welcome you to this first edition session of the 15th Jaipur Literature Festival, protected by Dettol, Banega Swasth India. It is our pleasure to present today the Queen of Indian Pop, Usha Uthup and Srishti Jha, in conversation with Vidya Shah. Usha Uthup is India's undisputed pop icon and a powerhouse of her generation, enthralling listeners even now, as she has always. Vikas Kumar Jha had captured her colourful and inspiring career in the evocative Hindi biography, now translated into English by his daughter Srishti Jha, the Queen of Indian Pop, the authorized biography of Usha Uthup. From Uthup's childhood days in Mumbai to her first gigs and then meteoric rise to stardom through strife, celebration, and intimate musings, Jha's work is engrossing and a testament to the still growing legacy of the brilliant songstress. In conversation with musician and writer Vidya Shah, Usha Uthup and Srishti Jha discuss music, memories, milestones, and the book that captures it all. Usha Uthup. Usha Uthup is an Indian pop singer who has been spreading the message of love and unity through music for over 5 decades. She has recorded over 100 albums and sings in 17 Indian and 8 foreign languages. Uthup has worked with innumerable NGOs supporting research for cancer, AIDS, women trafficking, and child abuse, and was awarded the Person of the World by President Daniel Arap Moi. Uthup is the recipient of the coveted Padma Shri Award, the Filmfare Award for the song Darling in 2011, and the Lifetime Achievement Award from Radio Mirchi in 2017, among numerous others. Srishti Jha. Srishti Jha is a journalist. She has worked in the media for the past 10 years with publications like Hindustan Times and India Today, among others. She currently works as an independent journalist, writer, and translator. Vidya Shah. Vidya Shah is a New Delhi-based singer and musician who was initially trained in Carnatic music and later received guidance in the North Indian genres of Khayal from Shubha Mudgal and Mujahid Hussain Khan, and Thumri Dadra and Ghazal from Shanti Hiranand. Shah is a recipient of the Charles Wallace Award and is the author of Jalsa, Indian Women's Journey from the Salon to the Studio. She was the Nana Shirgaonkar Chair Professor for Indian Music at Goa University from 2016 to 2020. Shah made her Bollywood debut in the film Manto with the beautiful Bol Ke Lab Azad Hai. Please feel free to send in your comments by typing them in the comment section. To follow our social media handles to get notifications on the upcoming sessions, please tweet using hashtag Jaipur Literature Festival 2022 and tag @Jaipur Litfest. Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you the Queen of Indian Pop, Usha Uthup and Srishti Jha, in conversation with Vidya Shah.
Hello and welcome to a session that I am so looking forward to. It's a session, it's going to be a really mellifluous session. It's going to be a session with some very beautiful voices perhaps, and an incredible journey actually. We're going to be looking at several journeys in this conversation, and I'm very excited to be here to speak with with this iconic musician that our country has given us. For someone who was asked to step out of a choir and goes on to becoming the Queen of Indian Pop, it is indeed my pleasure to be in conversation with the legendary Usha Uthup ji, and also with Srishti, who has done this lovely job of translating her father's authorized biography of the Queen of Pop, or the Queen of Indian Pop. Usha ji, I just want to know what you're feeling right now, I mean, apart from, I'm sure there is I'm sure I'm sure there's no exaggeration in saying that there is an element of feeling overwhelmed with seeing your life, in a book. So tell us about your
Completely.
feelings.
Completely. Let me just say namaskar, namaskaram, sat sri akal, salam alaikum. It's just fantastic to be with Srishti and with you. Let me tell you, to be a part of this, of course, JLF is so, so prestigious. And when you say, Queen of Pop, and you say all those wonderful things about me, of course, I'm overwhelmed completely. And in 2 seconds flat, you'll see the tears falling as well. So I'm really, really overwhelmed. And I say thank you to Srishti Jha, who has done the translation, as you already mentioned, and her father, Shri Vikas Kumar Jha, who wrote Ullaski Now, which we celebrated at JLF 2 years ago. And I can't even imagine that it's been 2 years already. And here we are together with you, looking absolutely resplendent in your maroon and your neck piece and everything.
I was trying to prepare myself for the other two beautiful screens that I'm going to have to contend with. So thank you very much for your compliments.
Yes. But it's always wonderful to be with JLF. And let me tell you something. I mean, the first time I ever heard of a Lit Fest was because of JLF, yeah? And I think it's just fantastic for me to be a part of this. I'd also like to say that I never really thought of myself as the queen or anything of pop or Indian music or anything. As you said, for somebody who has been thrown out of class or not happily accepted in music class, to be able to be there still after 53 years of singing, yeah, it's really amazing. And the journey, in fact, has truly been, what shall I say, peppered with some wonderful, wonderful moments in my life, which is all in the book.
You're absolutely right in saying that JLF has this, seamless way of making these connections between music, between culture, between literature, and I think that's what makes it so special. But coming back to you and your life's journey, which has been beautifully illustrated in this book, it astounds me that for, the way we look at Indian music and the way we celebrate it, we put it on a pedestal. And very central to that is your learning experience, your talim, your riyaz, so on and so forth. There's a whole lot of all that which falls into this framework. But it really astounds me that, your own engagement with developing your music, let's say, your own shaping of your music is it's so peculiar to you. It's your music.
So different.
Which I find so incredible because, at the end of the day, music has to be a personal experience, whether you're singing it or whether it's someone who's listening to it. And to that extent, I think you've really actualized that process. You made it yours. So how did you sort of decide to tell yourself perhaps that I don't care if Mrs. Davidson or whoever it was said, sorry, you can't sing, but I'm going to do this. This is what my calling is. When did that sort of
I really didn't look at it rebellious at all. I mean, I didn't say, oh, I'm going to do it just because she threw me out of class or something. I never had that kind of streak in me. And, I just accepted that, okay, she really couldn't fit me into the school choir, which is true, actually, because, whatever they were playing was either too high for me or too low. So, I myself realized that it was a bit difficult to fit me into the thing. But, though I was a bit sad that I wasn't in the choir, I was very happy to be part of the school and representing the school because I was playing the clappers and I was playing the tambourine and I was playing the triangle, ting, 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 ting on the side. So it was all okay. But, this point that you brought out, I'd like to say something about that. When you talk about Indian classical music, you talk about, or Indian music, basically what I want to say is when anywhere in the world, if you talk about any music, everything is encompassed, right? But here in India, when you talk about it and you say Indian music, you have to specify whether it's Indian film music or non-filmic Indian music.
Right.
And there is no, in India, unfortunately, basically everybody is middle of the road. but there is no middle of the road people. I mean, like the middle class people or whatever you want to call them. But my music is middle of the road music, really. It's not just film music, and it's not anything to do with classical Indian music, because Indian classical music, in fact, is a way of life, and you can't just pick it up for 1 day or 2 days and just say, okay, I've learned this or I've learned that.
Sure.
And
Sure.
film music in our country, as you know, was a monopoly of a few, people who were in the playback industry or in the film industry. But there I was in the middle of the road. I mean, I sang what people loved. Whatever
Right.
people loved, and if you loved to listen to a particular song, I was that. If you
Mhm.
liked to listen to a particular Elvis Presley song, I was that. If you liked to listen to Kishore Kumar's song, I was that. So, I was very middle class, I mean, middle of the road kind of music, which
Mhm.
everybody would call either retro or probably would call recall. And I like
Right.
to call it people music. And really,
Okay.
that requires, I think, a different kind of riyaz, because music is not my business, communication is. So I'm always doing riyaz as to how better I can communicate with you. And
Right.
I found that this is when you asked me about my calling, I really felt that music called me to
Mhm.
be a part of it, because, as I said, communication is my business, not music.
Right.
And music is a via media. So when I realized that, when I sang and people liked it and they clapped their hands, wow, that was like something fantastic for me.
Right.
And
Right.
that was really truly my calling, being a
Right.
people's person and being a people's singer.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned how much, how intoxicating, inebriating, the sound of the applause can be. And I mean, I can understand how energizing that can be. But I'm also sort of, I'm curious about this. I wouldn't call it like a contradiction, but it's kind of a juxtaposing, your own life versus your musical journey. They are not sort of, and of course, people often talk about your sari bindi thing, but that's not what I'm sort of, my question is not directed so much as that, as you, you've often spoken about, in fact, even the book talks a lot about how you've been so rooted in middle class values, how family means so much to you, and how supportive the environment was always. And given all that, so sort of, if I can say that it was almost like a conventional setup in which you
Yes,
were sort of nurtured and brought up,
of course.
and if that were the case, then the kind of music that you chose to do, even if it was, say, people's music, or if it helped you connect with your audiences and it sort of made it exciting for you, but the music itself is not what one would conventionally sort of associate with
Expect,
your
with the kind of look that I have, right?
not just
Of
look, I
course.
mean your upbringing as well. I mean, I
Hmm.
feel like
Sure.
Tamil household, even if it meant that, you mentioned in the book that you've had a very, very fantastic exposure to different kinds of music, all the way from
Different, yes.
Mere Ghulam Ali Khan Sahab to Mozart or Chopin or whatever it is. So the choice of, the Usha Uthup genre, if I can call it that.
Hmm. It's people music. And how did I choose it? Actually, and I never learned to note music, right? So some of the most difficult songs which I heard on Radio Ceylon or Madhur Geetam or, or Vivid Bharati, anywhere, Fauji Bhaiyon Ki
Mm-hmm.
Farmaish, or whatever it was, whatever I heard, and which touched me, actually, music which touched me or songs which touched me,
Mm-hmm.
I used to, when I would iron my clothes or iron my uniform to go to
Mm-hmm.
school, that was the time I would really learn to sing that particular song. Isn't that strange? Yeah, but for me, when I mean ironing, in any case, is therapeutic for me.
Right.
I love ironing, and there are later on. I mean, you would see it in the book as well. I love
Right.
ironing, and in fact, I used to. I mean, now when I think back as to what my mother said to me, that if you use that same thing in your life as well, that you ironed out all your problems as soon as you see it, like you iron your clothes out after drying and you iron it out. If you did that with your life would become so much easier when you
Right.
iron out things. And all these little things about middle class values or whatever you want to call it really helped me through. But when I learned my difficult songs, I found that the kind of songs that I was really singing, like, for example, there was a song which nobody would ever imagine, that I would ever have thought was a song which I could sing. And neither did I. In English, it was a song called People. People, people who need people are the luckiest people in the world. The range was so high and I mean, was so vast. And I learned how to sing that song and I remember all the lyrics, even though I was such a little girl when I heard it first. Okay.
Right.
But there are many other songs of Pat Boone and Elvis Presley and Cliff Richard and the Beatles and everything, which I heard on the radio. And I would learn to sing that and I found that I had a limitation. I could go very low, but I couldn't go very high. So I was a middle of the road kind of musician and also more a black Western music kind of singer. I could sing more of Stevie Wonder and things like, and Jose Feliciano, and maybe a little bit of Ella Fitzgerald, but not so much of the Lata Mangeshkar genre, if you know what I mean. I couldn't really, there was a song which I really loved of Lata Ji Mangeshkar, which said, Majhi mere kismat ki ji chahe jahan le chal. My God, it's so old. I don't even know how I'm singing it in jail. But it's a song which made an impact on me, which I felt, wow, this is a great song and I wish I could sing it. But then I realized that I couldn't sing it like her, or with all that kaj and everything, or the adornment. So I started singing it the way I know how to sing it. Right. And I didn't feel bad about it. But there were ghazals which I listened to, which really moved me. But I wouldn't go that road because I know that it was not my genre. And we was not meant, in those days, we never used the word genre either. But I just knew that there were certain songs which I couldn't go to. And it would come to me, to my ears and to my heart and to my mind and soul. But I could never sing those songs. So I was happy not singing them, being just a ruchikar and being happy to listen to those songs and assimilate whatever I could. So for me, that is what was so important. That made me finally decide what I was going to sing.
Very interesting. I mean, I find it particularly fascinating that, you, in a sense, start working backwards from understanding what are some of your limitations, which is a great way to sort of, define your musical canvas, in a sense.
And you will see it in the book as well. In fact, when I was speaking to Vikas Kumar Jha, I mean, he kind of asked me, what do you mean by saying your limitations? तो मैंने कहा कि मैं उस रास्ते पे जाती नहीं हूँ जहाँ पे मुझे लगता है कि मैं I won't do it justice, So I did not sing, even though it moved me so much. There were certain songs of, I mean, so many singers, and even I used to listen to a lot of Kishori Awadkar, then Dagar brothers, then so many. I mean, Kumar Gandharvaji, Bhimsen Joshi. Allah, how much I've listened to all of them, but I assimilated. But I would never go that way because that was a limitation or a weakness, or shall I say, I made it my strength.
Correct.
Because I did not venture into something which I knew was not meant for me. And I discovered that very, very early in life. And I really thank God that I did not, I mean, I listened to my soul and I knew that this was not meant for me, or that I couldn't do it. And that was fine by me. I mean, I wasn't frustrated or miserable that I couldn't do it. I just didn't do it, and that became my style.
I think it's interesting what you're saying, because I think you've combined two ideas here. One, of course, you're saying you understood your shortcomings and, and you converted them into your strengths, but also the fact that you mentioned earlier that your music is really people's music. So I think somewhere along the line, these two ideas have merged in your singing 100%. Practice. And that makes your music very accessible, I feel.
Yes, I am a very, very approachable person because I'm just like you or like anybody else. And I've always said this also in my shows that, in everybody, there is a singer. Even if you aren't a singer, everybody feels they can sing. and you meet 10 people in an audience, and you say, I mean, in a party or even a get together somewhere, and you say, hey, come on, why don't you join in and sing? You will never find anybody who said, they may just say that, nahi, mujhe gana nahi aata, ye gana nahi aata. But they will, when you encourage them all to sing, they will all sing, whether it is betal or besur, that's not the point. That is what is the power of music, I feel. It just gets people together. And somebody will say, oh, main to bathroom mein gaata hu. Somebody else will say, oh, main jab kitchen mein hu, pakati hu, then I sing a song. But actually, it's not so. There is a singer in everybody. So it's up to you as a singer or an entertainer to get that thing out of somebody, and knowing,
you mentioned
and they identify with me because I open myself out to them and I say, main to ye nahi ga sakti. I can't sing a fantastic ghazal of Ghulam Ali Saab. I mean, though the whole world and its dog who would know anything about music will say they know Chupke, Chupke. And therefore it stops for me, because after that, the things that he does with the song is magical. And how dare anybody go that way when you know you can't ever reach it? I mean, what's the point? What is the point is my point. So if you sang the set of lyrics in your style and you did your thing, it's different.
I found the chapter, which of course, kudos to you as well, Srishti, the chapter where you're talking about how music has really been, it has a universality to it, how it has kept people together for ages. There's that chapter where you're talking about how different musicians have sung and gone away or have left such beautiful themes, ideas, songs, melodies for future generations, and how music therefore has this very, very important quality of like you just said, bringing people together, and you also mentioned about how Frank Sinatra and his Indian Summer, and how why would he sing that, or for example, there are many such examples in that chapter, and I found it particularly lovely actually, because it's just so heartwarming to see what music can do, the transformative quality that it can have in people and in society as well. I just want to ask you that, according to you, how much of an artist or a singer's music is the singer's personality? How much of your music is your personality? And how do you think that works generally, say, in the world of singing?
Is that for me or is that for Srishti?
It's for you first, and then I have an extended question for Srishti on that.
Okay, mine. So you want to know, how did I blend these two? Is that right?
No, I want to, actually, my question is a slightly, let's say, philosophical question, in the sense that how much of a person's music is the person? I often feel, in your music, for example, there is, I wouldn't even call it passion. There is something a little more than that. Actually, there's a beautiful Urdu word, which is junoon.
Junoon hai, bilkul
so
junoon.
wo jo hai, how much of that is you, and how much of it is not just the song that you're singing? Can you separate the two, or are they
yes,
like...
you can't separate the two, because if I take a song and I sing it, say for example, Buleya, okay. Now it's a fantastic song sung by the original person, Amit. He's really done a fantastic job. But when I sing it, besides giving him the credit that he sang it first, besides that, I just make a song my own. I mean, because there are only a set number of notes in the universe, and there are only 8 notes, and every song or every piece of music is a combination permutation of that, right? So once it's out in the universe, it's for everybody to take, which is why I say a song is a song is a song. I don't care who sang it before. If I feel like singing it, and if the people enjoy it, then I sing it. तो वो जुनून ऐसा पैदा हो जाता है, ऐसे ज़हन में भर जाता है कि you can't, it's something you cannot separate. You can't separate the song from me at that time when I'm singing it, because I've already made it mine completely. And unless you do that, unless you make a song completely yours and live every word in that, It's never going to work.
You know, in that sense, your approach really reminds me of Begum Akhtar's. She was also a bit like that, in the sense that she felt that, you know, when you listen to her, you feel like she is her music, you know.
Yes, absolutely.
That quality of becoming that, you becoming your music is, I think, it's really another level of existence for me, you know. And she says, in fact, ये एक शेर मैं पढ़ती हूँ, आपकी नजर है उषा जी, कि she sings this ghazal where she says, हमको मिटा सके ये जमाने में दम नहीं, हमसे जमाना खुद है, जमाने से हम नहीं. So that really, in a sense, exemplifies how you become your music. So Srishti, let me come to you now. I mean, first of all, you know, your father chronicled this journey in originally, and so did you have, while he was doing it, were there evenings where he would come and share, you know, his conversations, and were you sort of you know, impacted by it? Did it sort of move you? And tell us some of that, some of those conversations.
So my dad is a huge Usha Uthup fan, and even I got to know of the star Usha Uthup as a child, you know, because my father was such a huge fan. And for years, he was trying to get in touch with her office for an interview. Initially, you know, like his plan was to do a profile on her. And finally, one day after some years, you know, the appointment happened, and he rang me up that, you know, I've gotten through and I'm going to meet her in Calcutta. And when he came back, you know, he said that, you know, this is not going to be a profile. This is going to be a book.
Fantastic.
And and their journey began. And my father has been my guru. You know, anything I know about journalism or writing, he has shaped me up. You know, sort of like since, you know, I was a little kid, and, you know, like so we have that, you know, sort of like that creative relationship as well. So he began writing, you know, like he did his round of interviews, and it was an ongoing process. And he would read out the chapters to me, you know, every time he would finish a chapter, he would read it out to me. And I was just so mesmerized by this persona, you know, like this incredible woman, an artist who has this perfect sense of identity and balance. She's so comfortable in her skin, and she's so, you know, unique and so distinctive in the way she is, you know, yet just having that, you know, sort of sense of completeness to her. So I would listen to her stories. I would hear stories about, you know, how Usha was a little girl, her family set up, you know, how she was like a daughter, how she was at school, and how her musical journey began. So, you know, like I felt this deep sense of connect with her. And then eventually when I met her, you know, I was just able to connect all the dots, and I felt like, you know, I met a friend, and I already know her, and we share a beautiful relationship. And the friendship that we have, I mean, like my dad has actually nothing to do with that. We share a very independent sense of friendship. And yes, you know, they were like, you know, like this woman who has had such an incredible journey, and, you know, music, art, everything. And the most, you know, interesting thing about her that really struck me was, you know, Usha ji does everything with that sense of, you know, artistic excellence, you know, like the way she sings, you know, it's like that's how, you know, like as she said, she'll iron her clothes. That's how she will, you know, sort of like put on, you know, like a look, or, you know, so that's how she will treat people. That's how she will do her interaction. So yeah, she is an absolutely people's person, a very approachable person, and a very encouraging person, you know. And the way, yeah, so Usha Uthup to me is this perfect sense of identity and balance, you know, which a woman of my generation can only aspire to be. So yeah, that was really interesting. And the book has, you know, it's a hold all of some really incredible chapters, you know, that will make you laugh, it'll make you cry.
I even liked the chapter titles. Some of the chapter titles are quite lovely.
Yes. So yeah. So, and the other thing was
Malipu included.
Chapter on that. And there's this kite flying girl where we speak about, you know, how Usha ji will make the manja, the kite, from scratch, and how passionate she was about that. So yes, you know, all these different parts of her life, and all these people who made Usha Uthup into who she is today, you know. So it's also the story of the traditional Tamil family, and how they encouraged, you know, this very unique artist. and she's had this journey. So yes, all these chapters, it'll give you, different, these are just like different windows into her life, and all the things that people don't know about her. People look at this star, people look at this magnificent, persona, a style icon, but it's like there are so many untold stories, that people don't know about, and how much of hard work and how much of persistence, like this incredible icon has had to, and how she continues to be madly in love with music. Like she's the same person as you would have imagined how she would have been as a performer. So yeah, she still performs, with the same zeal, with the same excitement, and the way she engages with her audience, it's an unforgettable experience. So yeah, like I can go on and on about this. So
of course, and I think what the book also does, apart from of course celebrating her life, and it also gives very, very significant insights, some small things which are very, very important, which one can, it could be a blink and miss thing. For example, Usha ji, I loved how you mentioned the eco machine in this, when you sing the song Ramba Ho Ho Ho. And in today's world, when everybody is multi-tracking and whatever it is, to have worked with less sophisticated technology. I'm so curious to know about, your relationship, your musical work with the likes of the greats like R.D. Burman Saab, Pilhari ji, who you've shared a lot of time with and recorded a lot with. So
lots and lots of wonderful things actually. Working in those days, I mean, I come from a time when there was no stereo even. Can you just imagine? It's really crazy. And I come from a time when, talking about recordings, since that's what you started with, is the fact that I come from the same space and time when everybody stood together in a recording room and recorded. There was all the musicians and the singer. So you see what happens actually when everybody is doing that. Everybody just has to be so well rehearsed. Because if somebody makes a mistake, then you have to do the track
from the
take
top,
all over again. Okay. So we were all, and that's why I believe in rehearsing so much. In fact, her father always says that, it's crazy to see the way I write a song, because supposing I'm doing a new song, then I make at least minimum 3 drafts of it, so that the more I write it, the more, for me, writing is very, very, very important. My handwriting also is very important. I hate making scratches on the thing. So when I'm singing, when I'm learning a new song and I make at least 3 drafts, sometimes more, then it stays in your mind even better. So I was always well rehearsed and very well disciplined before I went on to the stage. I mean, before I went on to the set to record. Then slowly came the time of separation, where the drums were put separately and the violin section was separate and the wind section was separate, and the singer sat in another room, to sing. So then that was an improvement. And then like this, slowly all the technological things happened. But the one thing that I wanted to say, and which I said in the book and which is there in the book, is the one that you mentioned about Ramba Ho. There was this, I didn't say the ho, ho, ho. I said Ramba Ho. And we had to fiddle with that recording machine. I mean, it was called the Roland delay machine, Roland 200, I think, which we use, or 201. And you had to set the delay. So if you set the delay and the repeat, then the repeat, if you say Ramba Ho, then it becomes, then you know that it's too fast. So you keep on. It's a slow process. But it's a process which really stuck on, and everybody started using it after that. So the first time we ever used it was for Ramba Ho, and it was Babida who did that. So it was quite exciting. Then with R.D. Burman also, there were things which, Kaushik Da, who was the recording engineer at that time, was getting so angry because R.D. Burman wanted a particular sound of the drums, the chokes that go, the sibilance that was coming. I was just not coming out of this. So they had this one big boom mic over that. Thing that came about over there was actually given by me. I said, why don't you mic the entire
Mhm.
drum kit. Okay, so
Wow.
each and every one of Franco was the player, and we fitted mics for everything else, and then we had the mixer on the stage. I mean, on the floor. And the output from that was given to Kaushika. And he was so pleased, and so was Auntie Berman, and everybody was pleased, and so was Franco, the drummer, because he got everything that he wanted. And then it became Shahnasi. Shahnasi.
Wow.
So there were a lot of
Fantastic.
technological things which we've seen through the ages. And I think my generation has been really lucky for that, because we've seen it from absolutely scratch with nothing.
Right.
Yeah, so it's been quite an exciting journey for that,
Yeah, I know.
technology.
You know, a couple of years ago, I've been associated with the Radio Mirchi Awards for some years now. So a few years ago, when you were receiving the Lifetime Achievement Award, I was there in the audience, and my God, we were all like so bloody moved, you know, to see that this seemed like a recognition that was just so damn appropriate, and
Thank you.
to have those young girls perform your songs is and each one of those songs, you know, is etched in everybody's,
so iconic,
and really etched in the memories of even young people. You know, that's what I find
mainly
incredible.
now. That's what I say. It's over the generations, over 5 generations, as Srishti has written actually in the book, that it's not just her dad's generation, but the one before that as well, and the ones her generation and the ones after that, who are all singing Koi Yahan Nache Nache or Hari Om Hari or Ramba Ho. In every festival, the loudspeakers or the speakers will be blaring out these songs, and so it's been mixed and remixed by so many people. So yes, as I've always said, a song is much bigger than the singer, and the music will always live on.
Yes, of course, but I think the singer also has a role to play in making sure the song lives on.
Maybe for that time, maybe for that time. But say, how many people?
I mean, there's all kinds of young people who are still happily humming Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, and Ramba Ho. With, they are like very popular, hummable songs as well. Yeah. So I think
that's what I'm saying. So the tunes will always live on. And like Vincent van Gogh's paintings, I mean, it's always going to be, people are going to look at it and learn how it is being done, and try to replicate it and get it, the style, whatever, or Rembrandt, or all the great ones. I mean, Beethoven. Every symphony is being played by every Philharmonic, but it's not that it's the creation that will live on.
Yeah. Before I come to I'm getting some signals on the time. Before I come to you with a last set of questions, Srishti, I'm going to ask you a tough one. If you were to pick that one, that one sharing or that one moment in this book that you feel will stay with you forever or has deeply impacted you or made you think, what would that be?
Okay. There are so many instances,
of course, yes,
that we can talk about in terms of how it impacted me. But it's like there was a particular, sort of like part, which is actually quite a beautiful one, which, it was the first time that I was just reading something. And, it's like while in the process of translating, I was alone in my room and I was translating The Kite Flying Girl, the first chapter. I'm just alone in my room and I'm just reading through it. And, it's like there's a part when I read about Usha as a little girl, like she came back from school and, it's like there was like this tree outside the house, like in the courtyard. And then she would pick up her comic book and she would climb the tree and she had this pillow behind her head. And then she, sort of comfortably rested on the branch and she's reading her comic book. That moment has stayed with me till now because I was just, like laughing, like that kind of expression that you're feeling while you're reading. It's not a visual thing, but the way, it actually visualizes the whole moment that, it's like there's this little girl relaxing on a tree, reading a comic book. I mean, it really stayed with me. And I laughed. I myself laughed like a little girl, just imagining, Usha ji as a little one, just, reading on a tree. And then, like a couple of instances, where she's working in her studio and there were so many of these technical issues that, of course, at that point of time, it was a huge deal. But she was always, like a fixer. Like she would, use these very unusual things to, figure out ways around it and how to get this particular sound, how to create that ambience. And like a lot of interesting parts. But yes, a lot of enduring, moments in the book. But like I shared this one because
Srishti, excuse me, have you done that portion about the lunchbox?
Yes. So I wrote that was my reference. So yes, she had this way of that, I have to figure this out and I'll make it happen. And actually that's something that's very relatable for me because I also, sort of approach things like that. So I saw that part of me also in Usha ji. So, like I felt that, it's a thing and, like it happens and you have to make something, work out. I mean, there are ways when you put things together, that at that point of time will not make sense, but it works. So yes, that was.
No, I think the one, it's almost like a refrain through the book that I felt when I was reading, whether it is your sharing bubble gums and street food with your sister Maya, or all the way to, or through your court case with the minister who was being strange, or your work with artists across various film industries, not just Hollywood, not just Bollywood, but also, the South and the sheer versatility. The one thing that keeps coming back to the reader, I would say, is, or at least to me it did, is your rootedness. You're an extremely sort of down to earth, head on shoulders, yet emotional, kind of a girl next door kind of a person. And I find that particularly curious because, when you think of an iconic artist like you would imagine something else. It's hard to remain so rooted after so much adulation, after so much love that, and so much recognition that, you have so rightly received through your journeys. 50 years into your music, Usha ji, now what?
53, actually, 53.
Okay,
And for me, it's just starting. It's just starting with Srishti Jha's new book and with talking to you and JLF. I would still be, looking out for more shows and looking out for more people that I could sing to, looking forward to more and more audiences, and hoping that through the years that I'll be a better person, more mellow, more, not that I was a very bad, I don't know what is a temper, actually. I don't have a temper. I don't get angry. And even if I do, it's such a negative thing because, you lose so much of energy. But if I do, then I'm very, very particular about counting 10 before what I say or before I do or say anything to anyone, even if it's my daughter or my son or my husband or my friends, whoever. I will always count. If it's a bad situation, I probably count 10. If it's a manageable situation, I would probably count 5. But if it's a really, paramount kind of thing, then I would probably do the Mrityunjay Mahamantra. And and it's worked for me. It's worked for me because it brings your whole thing down. As I said, I don't have a temper. And my sisters and my family will vouch for it. So, in fact, my daughter always says, Amma, why can't you shout and scream so that, we know that you're angry?
Get it out of
But they are scared only when I become more quiet. Okay. But I have a wonderful infrastructure of a great family support. And if it weren't for that support and the way they treat me after a really fantastic show is quite the opposite of what my audiences treat me, okay? Right. So when I come back after a show, they say, okay, is the food ready? Put it on the table. That kind of thing, you're back to square one. Right. And you're, as you said, head absolutely tightly screwed onto my shoulders and feet tightly onto the ground, which is what makes for a successful anything, whether you're a teacher or whatever it is. I think it's important to have the family that will support you. And yes, Srishti, I'm just dying to ask you whether you that is there because I didn't realize in which chapter. This game, that I used to play with my sister, younger sister, Maya. We used to have a game called Lalita Geeta.
Yes, it's there. It's there. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure everybody
is also a great, sort of like mimic artist.
Oh yes, yeah.
The way she mimics people, it's fascinating. And
Fantastic.
she's also a great comedian, by the way, as she says that if I weren't, like a singer, I would have been a comedian.
Right. How
Yeah.
fantastic. No,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's no surprise that she is the queen of pop. And I think the book is, it's an interesting coming together of the making of the queen of pop. So some lovely little stories about Lalita, Geeta, Bubblegum, etc., so on and so forth. But Usha ji, you have to sing for us, as we have to, time is always, all good things come to an end, as the cliche goes. But please do sing something for us.
I know,
something
if it were like I did at the JLF when we did Ulaski Now. Yeah, it was just fantastic that I got an opportunity to sing for all of you. And yeah, I definitely will sing. But would you like me to, what would you like me to sing? Can I sing you an English song, which
yes, please.
Which is a good thing for now. Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us, only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living lives in peace. Whoa, oh, oh. You may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday that you will join us and the world live as one. And as Sumitra Chandran's guitar plays a beautiful solo, on behalf of Srishti Jha and myself, we'd like to say thank you to GLF. It's been a wonderful morning for us.
Thank you very much, Usha ji.
Thank you, Usha ji, Srishti, and Vidya for a truly delightful conversation. Thank you all for watching and being such a great audience. Please stay logged on to continue to watch with us the series of exciting sessions featuring a stellar list of speakers that have been specially curated for you. Sessions are ongoing across all three of our venues, Front Lawn, Mughal Tent, and Darbar Hall. Stay tuned for the next session.